Happy Monday morning, second grade. I'm happy to be back. We're going to keep reading a couple more biographies for our Fonda Spinell biography unit. I'm also going to try to add in some other books related to this. I hope everybody had a safe Palm Sunday. So, today, our biography is going to be The Pot That Juan Built. And we'll just dive right in because this one's a little different. I really like this book, but it's also presented in a slightly different way. Okay, The Pot That Juan Built by Nancy Andrews Goebel and pictures by David Diaz. The Pot That Juan Built. So obviously we're talking about a man who does pottery. This is the pot that Juan built. Juan Quezada was born in Santa Barbara, Tutuaqua, Mexico, in 1940. When he was 1 year old, his family moved to Mata Ortiz, a village of dirt roads and adobe houses on the windswept plains of Chihuahua, of the state of Chihuahua. It was there that Juan rediscovered pottery making, the process of the Casas Grandes people who had vanished from that part of Mexico 600 years ago. So he's trying to revive an ancient pottery technique used by his ancestors. These are the flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan became a professional potter in the 1970s. Before that, he worked as a farm laborer, a railroad hand, a sharecropper, and even a boxer. He was never afraid of hard work and takes pride in using ancient methods and natural materials in his pottery making. Juan taught 8 of his 10 brothers and sisters and many of his neighbors how to make pots. They all developed their own special styles. Juan's discovery changed Mata Ortiz from an impoverished village of poorly paid laborers into a prosperous community of working artists. These are the cows, all white and brown, that left manure all over the ground, that fueled the flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Again, cow manure actually is a very good fire starter if it's dried and cared for properly. Juan's pottery is fired in the traditional way, using dried cow manure for fuel. He gathers manure on the cattle range that surrounds the village of Mata Ortiz. In his experiments, Juan learned that manure from cows that eat grass rather than commercial feed burns at the best temperature to turn his clay pots into perfectly dried works of art. Probably not the most fun part of his day, but again, nobody's afraid of hard work. This is the brush of hair from his head that spread the paints, all black and red, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan makes paint out of local materials, such as black manganese and red iron oxide. He makes paintbrushes from human hair. He says that some of his best brushes are fashioned from children's hair, especially his granddaughters. Since very little hair is used to make the paintbrush, no one minds giving Juan just a snip to design a pot. These are the rocks of red and black, brought down from the mountains on burro back, to make into paint all black and red, to spread on the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. When he was 12 years old, while bringing firewood down from the hills on his burro, Juan found his first pot shards. They were pieces of broken pottery from the ancient Casas Grandes city of Paquine, which was located 15 miles from present-day Mata Ortiz. The pot shards inspired Juan to create something similar, even though he had never seen a potter at work. Juan began experimenting with local materials. His mother declared that he was always covered in dirt of many colors from his experiments with minerals and clay. This is the tool that's made of bone, that rubbed the pot until it shone, and glittered and glowed, and glistened and glimmered, and gleamed and beamed and sparkled and shimmered, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. After his clay pots dry, Juan polishes them before he applies the paint. To polish his pots, Juan uses animal bones, smooth stones, and even dried beans. Animal bones are abundant because of the deer hunting and cattle ranching that help feed the people of Mata Ortiz. Smooth stones are available in the Palanganas River, which runs along the eastern boundary of town. Of course, dried beans can be found in any kitchen in the village. Here's the tortilla, slap, slap, pat, slap, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat that become the pot. Imagine that. In the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all red and black, to spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan hand builds his pots. He begins by patting out a flat piece of clay he calls a tortilla, which becomes the bottom of the pot. Then he rolls out a sausage-shaped piece of clay, which he calls a chorizo, and presses it onto the edge of the tortilla, pinching it all the way up to become the walls of the pot. Juan makes his pots in a small workroom behind his house, and often in the company of chickens and his calico cat. This is the clay, all squishy and white, dug from the hills from morning till night, to make the tortilla, slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay, so slick and fat, that become the pot. Imagine that. In the wink of an eye, in the blink of a cat, before it was scrubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, to spread with a brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire. The crackling flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan says his painted designs look best on Barro Blanco, a pure white clay that he digs in the Sierra Madre Mountains above Mata Ortiz. He uses the ancient designs of the Casas Grandes potters for inspiration, but he doesn't copy them. Juan never plans the decoration in advance. He lets the pattern develop as he paints it onto the clay pot. He allows the design to come naturally to him. These are the ants that led the way and showed Juan to a vein of special clay, the very best clay, all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night, to make the tortilla slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that become the pot, imagine that, in the wink of an eye, in the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with a brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan made. One day, while Juan was searching for minerals and clay, he noticed a colony of ants burdened with tiny cargoes of white material. Looking closely, Juan realized that the ants were transporting bits of clay from underground to the edge of their anthill. So Juan dug a hole near the anthill and unearthed a vein of white clay, the finest clay he had ever seen. This is the cock that crowed at dawn, that greeted the village and woke up Juan, to ride the range at the break of day, gathering rocks and hunting for clay, the very best clay, all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night, to make the tortilla slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot, imagine that, in the wink of an eye, in the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone over and over until it shone, to show off the paints, all black and red, spread with a brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot. Juan gave away his first pots to family and friends. Today, his work is exhibited in museums and art galleries all over the world. In 1999, Mexico's president, Ernesto Zedillo, presented Juan with the National Arts and Science Award, the highest honor any artist in Mexico can have. Pope John Paul II received a Juan Quezada pot as a gift from the people of Mexico. In spite of his fame and wealth, Juan cherishes most of all the time he spends in solitude exploring the hills above Mata Ortiz in search of minerals and clay. If he is very quiet, Juan says, the voices of the ancient potters can still be heard. The beautiful pot that Juan built. Whoops, gotta turn it this way. So, Juan, through hard work, rediscovered how the ancient potters made their craft, how they did their work. He also figured out for himself how he could make this into something special. So, I have 2 questions I'd like you to answer in your notebook today. One is, do you agree that anybody can do something special if they put enough hard work into it? And number 2, is it important to maintain the way things were done in the past? The people who lived in these mountains disappeared 600 years ago, and yet he figured out how to do their pottery. So, do you think that's a valuable thing to keep these old traditions alive? Mr. Holman has an opinion, but we shall see. I want to see what yours is. Tomorrow, I'm going to be reading 2 books, but they're going to have a relation to each other. And I'm going to try to do 2 to 3 books a day going forward. You're also going to see me doing some experiments with different places to read books. Maybe doing a few different things with the camera. So we'll see how things turn out. Stay safe, stay healthy, and please have a very, very good day. Thank you.